Well, hello, everybody. I'm just waiting to see. Can someone write a comment just to check that they can hear and see us okay? Just checking to see whether anyone's joined us yet. Oh, hello. Hello, Marcelo. Thank you for that. Well, welcome everyone to Product Tank Sydney. Thank you, Marcelo. This is the second event that Product Tank Sydney are hosting this year. We were a little bit slow to start with our events, but I'm really pleased to say that we have lots of other events to come. We've already booked speakers in for June and July. So watch this space, some awesome topics and some awesome speakers. A happy World Product Day to everyone tuning in. I know World Product Day was technically yesterday, so I should say probably World Product Week. I know there have been numerous meetups that have taken place this week, so hopefully everyone has had a good time and listened to some really good events and some good content. Hey, comment on whereabouts you are dialing in from. Last month we had people from all over Europe, obviously lots of people from Australia as well. So feel free to write a quick comment and let us know where you're dialing in from. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, just to let you know that Product Tank is part of the largest product community all over the world. We host meetups all over the world as well. And we run events in over 200 cities. Mind the Product is an organization that sits on top of us, and it runs a fantastic community of professionals, as well as a conference that runs twice a year. And if you haven't yet been to one of the conferences, I highly suggest that you go. Again, some awesome speakers, awesome content, awesome talks, and awesome learnings as well. Keep an eye out, as there's always great content on their page and blog, which leads me to my next point. If you would love to be involved in the community and level up your career, please email us. Email ben@productrise.com. If you want to be a speaker, we're always looking for speakers. If you have something to say that's topical in the product world, then please let us know. We'd love to hear from you. We're always looking for people to help host or even sponsor our events. At the moment, everything that we do is virtual, but post-COVID, we're really excited to get back into a physical space. So sponsorship is always welcome to help us to do that. But if you want to become a Mind the Product member, please join us for more content. mindtheproduct.com/join. We're always looking to expand the community. It seems like we've got a lot of people from Sydney. So we've got Surrey Hills, we've got Maroubra, Parramatta, Bronte Beach. So a lot of local people joining us today. Now, we wouldn't be able to run these events without our organizers. And just to introduce myself, my name is Liam Pietschka, and I'm the director of Brightbox Consulting. We've got Mossman Sydney. Thank you very much. This is the first time that I've actually hosted one of these events. And if some of you are wondering who I am and why, Brightbox Consulting is my business. We've been recruiting in the product and design space in Australia for close to 8 years. Very aptly, today's topic is going to be about design and product. So I'm really excited shortly to introduce both the topic and the speaker. Normally, you see Ben's face on these events, Benjamin Wirtz, who's a chief product officer and advisor. But Ben has another job to do today. Dare I say it, an even more important job, as Ben has become a dad this week. So Ben, if you're listening in, on behalf of me, and I'm sure everybody listening in, a huge congratulations to you and your partner. Also, Peter Chewy, a growth and product lead for Cognizant. Peter, thank you for all your support in getting these events off the ground. So now brings me to our topic, which is all about UX and product, but more specifically, fostering productive and healthy tension between product and design. And I'm really pleased and grateful that our speaker today has agreed to talk about this specific topic. Sophie Tobin is a good friend of mine. She's a service and strategic designer. She's currently the Chief Experience Officer at Mable, where she's leading a team of design-led principals to work across both the business, but also to help continually improve and innovate the product and service experience to support people with disabilities and older Australians to live full and inclusive lives. She's worked all over the world, currently here in Sydney, Australia, but she's also worked in Europe, in Asia, and in the USA, just to name a few. And she's going to share from her own personal experience some of the key enablers that help unlock the potential in work partnerships. And I'm sure there's good, there's bad, there's ugly, and Sophie's going to be sharing some personal experiences, including maybe some things that haven't worked so much and the things that she's learned from that. Got a few congratulations, Ben, there. Thank you, guys. Keep those coming. There's going to be plenty of time for Q&A, so please write your questions down in the comments box. Once Sophie has finished, I will be fielding any questions that you have to her directly. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Sophie on, and I'm going to let her kick things off. So hello, Sophie.
Hi, Liam. Thanks so much.
No worries. I'm going to take myself off.
Perfect. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'll just wait for those slides to come across. Fantastic. Happy World Product Day or World Product Week. I hope you're all having a fantastic week and it has been productive and productive. So tonight I am talking about how to foster a productive and healthy tension between product and design. And I have to say this topic sort of pricked some ears, even for my own colleagues. One morning last week, I was in the office and one of the PMs I work with let out this strange noise and then propped her head up over the monitor and said, "Sophie, I was reading Product Tank's headline and it looked really interesting. And I was just about to post it in the Slack to everyone. And then saw you're giving the talk. What are you going to talk about?" Anyway, so nothing like a little bit of pressure from someone you work with every day to make sure that what you're going to talk about is good and worth her coming. So what am I going to talk about? I'll talk a little bit about my own journey and professional experience, but I really want to focus on sharing some stories and perspectives from this journey and how these experiences have really helped informed key qualities that I think really helps foster positive relationships in the workplace, and particularly between design and product. Looking back on why I chose donuts and a coffee when I did put this together, it was a little unclear to me. But then something in my subconscious must have brought that to life, because it's well and truly past donut time in Australia. But I remembered why this spoke to me. And actually it was because I was reading this article. It may not have been from a particularly reputable site, but it was stating that the combination of donuts and coffee make you smarter. And I thought, this is perfect. That combination of caffeine, glucose, it apparently really revs up the brain. But actually a really good combination of pairing in the workplace is sort of similar. When you can bring these two elements together, two qualities that don't seem quite right, but make a really good partnership and make you smarter. So just like donuts and coffee, we're going to talk a little bit about product managers, designers, but overall work relationships and partnerships. So firstly, a little bit about myself and my journey and career path today. I'll start right back at the beginning, and it was probably around year 11 or 12. I was reading through those big books that you would get on like university courses. Anyway, I stumbled across this thing called industrial design, and that one of the possible career opportunities after studying industrial design was to design toasters. I became like fully obsessed. What better thing could there be in the world than to dedicate your life to toasters? Everyone loves toast. They're in most kitchens, and there really hasn't been much innovation around the toaster in quite a few decades. I was determined that toasters was going to be my thing. I studied really hard. I got into industrial design. I loved it. But what I learned pretty quickly is that the discipline of industrial design was, one, a lot more than toasters, but two, it was actually really about understanding problems that existed in society, around people, businesses, and then applying creative tools to help build and test solutions. Throughout my study, I did internships in Holland with Philips, an industrial design agency, SPEC in the US, and went on then to study a Master's of Strategic Design. Strategic design focuses on solving business, operational, or customer problems with a design-led approach, developing solutions which may be new products, services, or systems. So actually service design was my first sort of home, you could say. I started developing training materials and guidelines for retail and call center experiences, developing and designing rapid service prototyping for office works, through to uniform design for Queensland Ambulance, through to web redesign for insurers and then museums. I then joined BCG Digital Ventures in 2014. BCG Digital Ventures is a wholly owned subsidiary of Boston Consulting Group, and it helps businesses build new businesses. They take the unfair or strategic assets of the core business to then plug in to a new business to give them an unfair advantage in market. I saw this business in Sydney really grow quite rapidly across not only Australia, but also Asia. After 4 years at DV, I was the Director of Strategic Design, and what this role meant was that I was overseeing the strategic design cohort across Australia, guiding through methodology, learning and development, coaching, tooling, and operations, while also acting as a lead or a GM across new ventures. This meant from developing new car insurance propositions in Thailand to property tech in Australia, to designing new digital banks in India, to new retail innovations in Australia. Wanting to move into an organisation, I transitioned out of DV, and this is where I've landed and joined Mable as a Chief Experience Officer. And I joined in this role at the beginning of 2020. So Mable, as Liam highlighted, is a platform that helps people who are living with a disability or are older Australians help discover, connect, and manage their support that they need to live independently by doing this and connecting with independent support workers in their community. With over 11,000 independent support workers running their own businesses through the platform, Mable's available Australia-wide, offering anything from social support, domestic assistance, through to personal care, nursing services, and allied health. And when I joined Mable, there was actually no design team. There hadn't really been any designers in the business. So over the last 18 months, I've really been focused on building out a team who represent different and a variety of design-led disciplines, who help solve business and customer problems through taking a design-led approach. Seeing our product become more accessible, increase engagement and conversion at key moments along that journey has really built our users' confidence and of course, growth in the platform. I do say it's quite a far cry from toasters, but I think a better place in where I've landed. And something that stayed strong with me throughout this journey is the passion for collaboration and problem solving. So this sort of leads me into the topic tonight and how to foster attention between product and design. Now, if you join tonight hoping for a checklist of do's and don'ts in working with your design or product peer, you're going to be fairly disappointed. Because for starters, I don't really classify myself as a UX or UI designer or a product designer. I'm a service and strategic designer, and my team can really vouch for that because there's some horrendous Figma files that get created by me. So that would actually be quite fraudulent if I decided to lay down some hard rules on how to work with UX designers. But also, secondly, if it was as easy as a checklist, I'm sure you actually wouldn't have come tonight. If it was that straightforward, I don't think you would have been attending this talk. So what I'm going to bring to life and what I'd like to talk about is actually a set of principles that I like to apply in building strong partnerships at work. And yep, teaming and partnership, it can really suck. I've worked across a number of teams of multidisciplinary designers, so lots of different designer types in teams. And gosh, even working with your own kind can be tough. And then over the years, I've worked across a variety of cross-discipline teams, solving different problems across different cultures, languages, with different seniority and experience. But what it really comes down to is building a trusted relationship. And a partnership means everyone is taking responsibility for working well together and productively together. And I believe it's actually it's not really one person's responsibility to make this work. And no matter the team size, it's everyone that has to contribute to that culture. And looking at this, I've also realized how just not so happy these people look. And these people look even less happy about teaming. But when I think about teaming and partnership, actually product and design is just another type of team or a combination in that partnership. You're not that special. But the difference that it comes down to in the partnership between product managers and UX designers or other types of designers is that there's often overlapping responsibilities, interests, capabilities amongst these members. Any questions from who knows the customer? Who's going to be the one to talk to the customer to find out what they need? Who's going to develop the solution? Who identifies the opportunities? Who defines what quality is? Who determines the estimation of effort? And you know it, the list goes on and on. And these frictions between different types of partners in a work environment, they don't always need to exist in a way that's unproductive or uncomfortable. But frictions like this of confusion of who owns what or potentially thinking that one discipline is better at it than the other, they can be worked through, and they can be worked through quite easily, even though I know at the time it really feels like they can't be. These different perspectives actually are the key thing to great work, but it has to sit alongside trust and objectives. Different perspectives are really a key contributor to having healthy tension within a team or partnership, and fostering this in a way that feels safe, constructive, and mutual. So what I'm going to talk through are some qualities that I like to apply to building healthy and productive relationships. I'll bring these to life with some stories that have been successful, but honestly, there's also been times where I've tried to flip it and it's landed a little bit wonky. But from these circumstances, you have to keep trying and learn from those mistakes. The qualities that I believe really make up for a healthy tension in teaming and partnership are clarity, safety, and humility. So first principle is building clarity. Humans rely so much on language in how we communicate, especially in the workplace. But how often, even in this week, have you been in those conversations where the words are, oh, I thought you meant this. Or no, what I meant was, where those exchanges were made. Building clarity is so important to build alignment, purpose, and mutual understanding, really to minimize that confusion, disappointment, or even a little bit of anger and frustration. I think actually one of my earliest memories of realizing the importance of clarity was in a team playing volleyball in high school. I think I was put into the C grade volleyball team. So, we weren't playing at any extraordinary level. And I'm pretty sure the reason that I had joined was because my best friend was also on the team. However, we had one team member, Waiso, and she lived for volleyball. And I think she was actually a little bit bummed that she got left with these people that had never really played before and just wanted to have fun. I remember one of the first games playing with Waiso, and she would scream, "Diamonds, girls, do the diamonds!" with her hands in the air and screaming this on every 3 to 5 minute intervals. Me, on the other hand, first game of volleyball, was like, sorry, what is this diamond you speak of? I thought we had to just focus really on getting the ball back over the net. By the end of the game, my poor teammate was quite exhausted. She was frustrated, but she had also recognised that her poor team, mostly newbies, had no idea what her well-versed tactics were all about. At training next week, she gathered herself and decided to overrun our coach and detailed out what this infamous diamond meant, why it was valuable, how it would work with the team, and how the team could actually deploy this diamond tactic. Building clarity around the tactic actually brought the team together and helped us understand maybe not only the rules of volleyball, but some different ways that we could actually get the ball back over the net. So in the workplace, I boiled down a lot of these Waiso moments of the diamond actually to be fairly similar, probably just it's not similar in the way of being yelled at by like a 16-year-old volleyballer, but at the same time, it comes down to making sure that we're clear with the team, a team that you're working with, of what you're actually talking about and what your intentions are. A few years ago, I was partaking in the Atlassian Roles and Responsibilities play while working at Atlassian. I don't know how many of you are familiar with their playbook and this particular play of roles and responsibilities. There was actually one product leadership team in Sydney and then one product leadership team in Bangalore in India. And so by product leadership team, this was a triad of product design and engineering in both locations. So there were 6 people, and the objective of this session was to align and divide on roles and responsibilities across the different regions and individuals. We started contributing to all responsibilities held within the group and different activities. The goal was to put everything on the table, or it was Atlassian's, who was a Trello board, and then actually sort through this and delegate it. I started to notice the challenge, but also the beauty of this exercise is in the words and the language being used across the group. As responsibilities and activities started to be captured, different language or interpretations of that language started to surface. But this is actually where the facilitation was key. So over the 60 to 90 minute conversation and facilitation, quite an honest and open conversation and exchange were being had between these parties, and a steady alignment of language formed, and therefore a social contract around roles and responsibilities, making a team, old or new, having that real potential to hum. So outside of teaming and tactics, one on the volleyball court or actually in the office, Where I also see language start to muddle is commonly in roadmaps. Roadmaps are things that tend to serve a suite of different purposes, from communication tools to being an alignment tool to being a timeline of initiatives. The language often used is truncated, but also needs a lot of context around it. Bringing clarity to what you're going to do is also helpful and powerful if it's paired clearly with the why and communicated with this as well. Building clarity in any partnership or any team is really critical. So don't be scared to ask for that clarification. Don't shy away from questions or try a different way of explaining it or understanding. So using visuals to communicate for alignment, and always aim to know why you're doing something, how you're going to do it, and what responsibilities are different between different team members. The next principle is around creating safety. And often when we think about the cultures of teams, we think about those good times, those celebrations that we've had, the high fives we give each other when things are going really well. But another really useful lens to understand the true culture and health of a team or a partnership is how people behave when the times are tough, deadlines are tight, resources are lean, and something fails or doesn't quite go to plan. A culture that brings this safety really shines through in good times and bad, and fostering this culture is essential to a team or a partnership success. Simply, psychological safety means that team members feel safe to take risks and be vulnerable in front of each other. We know that teams who are feel psychologically safer are happier, more productive, and more willing to tackle the hard problems, which lead to the most innovative outcomes. So several years ago, I remember leading a team, and there was actually a friction between two PMs on the team. I sought to understand from both of their perspectives actually what was going on. So in one-on-one, then really tease out solutions that could help this teaming be more positive and collaborative. I had a good grasp on what was causing this uncomfortable undercurrent between the two. So I decided to bring them both into a room to discuss things through as the three of us. However, I stumbled, and my plan of a very open conversation ended up to be very leading. It was solution-focused, and it lacked an opportunity for the voices in the room that really did need voices to be heard. And you know what? I felt it immediately. And that I launched into this critical moment so poorly, leaving both parties feeling quite unsafe, unsettled, and actually just like more agitated. I failed to take that moment to pause, acknowledge some of the impacts of this friction, yet not jump to a solution, not speak on behalf of someone else. You can't always get this right, but trust me, you know in that moment that I had messed this up, and I could feel it. And I knew as well that I had to work really hard to rebuild the trust, not only between myself and these individuals and themselves, but the ripple effect that could have on the wider team, to which I then dedicated a lot of energy moving forward. Creating a space for all voices and perspectives to be shared and acknowledged is a sign of safety and health within a team. I also like to think that if team members can be vulnerable in front of each other, this is also a really good sign of health, even if it feels a little odd and uncomfortable at the time. Earlier in the year, I was working with a team who were relatively new in working together. They'd had some really quick pace, good wins, But coming into the new year, there was a view to give this team more structure and more sustainability, also a bit more of a strategic view in where they were heading. So there's a relatively large working group involved in this team, and we needed to work through and establish much stronger ways of working and alignment around what our mission was and also key initiatives. And that was definitely not going to be solved in a 1-hour meeting. We had sort of laid out that there would be a series of different sessions to work through this, and it was going to be tough. And so everyone was actually like feeling a little bit tense going into it. As someone who was helping to facilitate this session, I decided to employ something that I learned while studying art therapy, which was a little bit cheeky / creative of me, but it's actually really powerful. It's the power of sound or music or movement to actually express oneself. We do rely on language so much. So what if we used a different modality to express? So with the right warning and framing, creating that safety, to kick off and close the meeting, each member of the group had to choose one word followed by one sound of how they were feeling. Yes, initially there were some squirms, but then this was actually followed by some great noises that really expressed how everyone was feeling at the beginning of the meeting. And what was amazing was how those sounds changed by the end of the meeting. This signal of using something that made everyone feel a little bit uncomfortable initially actually brought everyone together. We all had our respective worries about what was going to surface in the meeting or how we were going to work through all this information, but it was acknowledged. We were all in it together, and actually a level of trust was initiated across everyone, creating the space in partnership and in teams, and maybe some noises that are heard and respected. It's only through this that you'll start to hear the differences, but also challenges to work with to get to a stronger solution. The next principle is about bringing humility. Multidisciplinary teams or partnerships require really different skills, but this also means recognizing that there are different expertise in the room. The combination of skills, expertise is the driving force of a team. However, what's important to recognize is that this force can only really be unlocked through recognition and trust. Taking the time to understand and appreciate someone else's expertise is important, even if time is a bit of a luxury. Several years ago, I was working with a team and we were building a new business. There were 14 people on the team, including myself as the general manager, and the team consisted of 3 work streams: product, design, technology, and commercial. And I'll be honest here, my depth in technical knowledge at this time was pretty close to none compared to the engineering manager on the team. The product we were building was a complete greenfield build, requiring a large amount of environmental setup and platform establishment. Being a visual thinker, I approached the engineering manager to walk me through the infrastructure, decision making, and basically the 101 on what we were actually doing. He took 2 hours out of his diary to walk me through this. He whiteboarded the entire solution to give me a crash course in the development language, tools, and approaches. Using great analogies, characters. I think even from memory, there was this character that he made up called Jack the Pirate, who traveled amongst the drawings to help me understand how it was all going to work. While I have no means of claiming that I have this depth of expertise that engineering teams have, I was able to build rapport and develop my own understanding. I was pretty vulnerable in that moment, asking for a one-on-one from this team member. I was senior to him. However, this humility allowed me to move forward, and actually us as a teaming and partnership to move forward with strength and respect. What I often see in healthy teams is where team members value each other's worth, expertise, and contribution. While we taught to talk about ourselves as teams collectively, there's always the we. There are often times where high contribution, clear thought leadership, and unique value was really brought to the table by a particular person. And I'm a big believer of this being acknowledged and celebrated. And I hold this so strongly as someone who has had a number of work partnerships over the years where my contribution or input has not been acknowledged, or simply the work goes accredited to someone else. Being kind, honest, and bringing humility to a work partnership goes a long way in building trust and productivity between two teams, or between teams or partners. So it's without a doubt that teaming is really complex, and it's never really a plug-and-play solution. There's different relationships, dynamics, history, expertise held within every team. And I often like to think of this as just like, it's like a little ecosystem on our planet where there's lots of little unique dynamics and dependencies, but also weaknesses. However, with certain qualities and a balance of these qualities and acknowledging what makes this ecosystem healthy is really where teams and partnerships can flourish. I hope some of these qualities that I've shared tonight really you can see how they might tie back into your everyday, and whether that be working with a designer, working with a product manager, or a whole nother role that you might work with. That healthy tension is being respectful between people and really driving a sense of clarity, safety, and humility. I'm really looking forward to questions or comments from the group. So I'll hand it over to Liam, who I think can read through some of these, or we'll share some.
Hello, Sophie. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. That was really awesome. Some really cool insights shared. I think one thing that I'm definitely going to be doing tomorrow morning is getting some donuts to have with my coffee. That's the first thing I'm going to do.
Who knew? You can report back if it does make you smarter through the day.
Exactly. But thank you so much for that. That was awesome. And guys, if there's any questions that anybody has for Sophie, please jot them down. I guess I've got one question that I would like to ask, and I guess it's speaking on behalf of product managers that maybe are working in a role in an environment where possibly there's a little bit of unhealthy tension between the kind of teams that they're kind of in essence leading cross-functionally, and there might be some friction in the relationships. If you were them and you were going back into the office environment and wanting to make some positive change, but wanting to make positive change as quickly as possible to kind of foster more of a healthy tension or more of a productive working relationship, what would be the kind of key things that you would do straight away? That you would kind of would you take yourself out and have a bit of a think and a brainstorm with the team? Well, what would you do to kind of change that round?
Yeah, I think there's probably like a lot of different tactics or frameworks or plays that could be done around this. But I think if I was to not jump into that immediately, I might throw some in there at the end. But to peel it back, I think it's around recognizing how that your team is made up actually of individuals, and we're individuals for a reason. So trying to look for and trying to step in other people's shoes and understanding what makes other people tick. in a good way or a bad way? Why, what's their superpower? And how can that be leveraged? What's the time of the day that actually doesn't work well for people? It might just actually come down to that. Like actually having that meeting at 9 o'clock is really tough for me to get to work and organize my life around that. So if you could just make it an hour later, I'm going to be in a much better headspace for the whole day that we can work together. And so sometimes actually just peeling it back, asking those like human questions, and being curious of each other, of how we work and our preferences, can actually take huge steps forward in that teaming and understanding. So often something that I like to do, because heading into maybe a larger retro, is actually starting with a little bit about everyone. You know, draw yourself in a happy place.
Yeah.
Definitely don't ask me to do blank. So you can start to actually find out about people, and through understanding those people and who they are, I think can really foster that trust.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to the point that you were making about the conversation that you had when you were being quite leading.
Yeah.
Sometimes you've just got to have that self-awareness to be able to just stop and think, right, okay, well, these people they're going offside here. I'm not going to get to the solution if I don't get their involvement from the start. So I need to stop and take a step back and rethink about my approach and ask the right questions. And I agree. I think finding the superpower in everybody is really important, and you kind of play on that.
Yeah.
Sophie, thank you so much. I didn't see any questions pop up. But if anyone wants to write a question, then now's the time. But Sophie, I'm just going to thank you so much for. Oh, hang on. We do have a question from David. What is your advice for addressing new tensions you discover when you join a new team? And he says, for example, when you feel you can help improve the way things are done, but people are stuck in their ways.
Ooh.
That one on the screen there, so you can see it, Sophie. How would you address that?
Oh, that's such an interesting one, because I think it sort of leads into that a little bit around jumping to a solution as well. So if joining a new team, if it's not necessarily seen as that there's issues or that there's necessarily a tension, but it could be done differently, and you're seeing that there's something that could be done differently, I think it is, there's a few ways to maybe address that or bring it up in conversation. And I think it's sort of, I'll put my designer hat on, and it's about asking the whys. So if a team is approaching something in a different way, and you can see that maybe it could be done more efficiently, or captured in with more process, or there's any number of reasons, I think approaching people and being curious of why do you approach it this way? How has it come to this place? Have you thought why? And peeling back that why before jumping to the how it could be done differently. But by peeling that back, I think in the right way, you can offer different ways of how you've actually solved for similar things in a different way. And would they like to maybe try this differently? Or could we start small? And by starting small, I think you can start to build trust, because that big new thing, no one's ever really going to jump on board with that too many times if it's going to change the way of teaming. So I would say asking the why, seek to understand, and then look for ways that you could position a different way, but not in a way that's digestible and can be a step-by-step in building that trust.
Fantastic. David's getting a lot of love for that question. It seems like a few people are going to ask the same one. We've got a question here from Mina. Thank you, Sophie, for an awesome talk. Could you share some best practice to 1, iterate products discovery, And then 2, get the best ideas from a product team.
Ooh.
So it's a big question.
Iterating on a product's discovery and then getting the best ideas. So in terms of iterating on a product's discovery, do you mean, I'm going to assume that you sort of mean that on what that product could actually solve for in the long term, and then how you're and then the second part is how do you turn to a product team to actually generate different ideas or the high quality ideas. I think anyone's actually capable of building out great ideas. I think what might be taking a step back is, are you bringing the right stimulus to actually frame the problems or different sorts of problems to generate those ideas? So are you getting a diversity of stimulus around ideas from insights from customers or interviewing a customer? Are you getting data from your platform or product, insights from a customer support team member of how challenges that they're facing, but through to even competitor scans or other sort of parallel worlds or products that you think that actually solve a similar problem quite well. And I think then pairing these in and having the right stimulus to start with, then to generate ideas, is actually where the exciting part happens, because then you can start to build. And then I think the iteration of that is making sure that you don't fall in love with your ideas. You have to start to actually make these tangible, make them real, get out of the building, test them with people, and be okay with that people might not like your idea. They may tear it down. And even saying that at the beginning of, it's okay if you don't like it, I'm okay with it. Actually, I do that a bit, and it helps me just reassure and reposition that it's just an idea. And it's great. That's actually why you're asking for feedback, is to try and make it stronger. So I'd make sure that you've got the interesting stimulus coming in for ideas that articulate problems or opportunities or new ideas that you could sort of take inspiration from. Generating ideas, but then not falling in love with them and taking them out of the building, and make sure that you're testing in different ways that seem appropriate.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mina, for the question. Doesn't seem like we're getting any more coming through. Oh, hang on. We do have another one. Let me just pop that one on the screen. Okay. So from Tim, how do you get a new team of product people and designers to work effectively? To work effectively together.
I think this sort of comes back to your question there a little bit, Liam, from the beginning of how do you, or when there's even tough times between people. And I think getting a new team of product people and designers, or this could be any combination of people, comes back to making the time for people to get to know each other, first of all. And then I think through getting to know each other well, then what works well for each other in a workplace is actually then secondly, creating the right framework for, are we clear on what we're actually solving and the objective, and why we're doing something, how we're going to organise to do that. So whether it is a roles and responsibility play, and that's just even managed at like a weekly basis as a starting point. So it's just really clear how we're going to tackle it, to then really unlock that trust and sort of alignment between people to what's deemed, I think, probably effective working together. But I think don't overlook that getting to know each other and understanding how each other work, or preferences to work and expectations on each other is a huge element of that. So making sure to cater that in, but also catering for the fact that we need to be really clear on what we're doing and why we're doing it, to get that rally and teaming behind it.
I guess it's so important not to make assumptions that everybody wants the same outcome and they share the same ideas. So being able to work out what people want will just allow you to be able to kind of steer that ship and ensure that you're getting the right outcome for everybody. It's
like a form of user testing in itself, or user research. Like it's an experience design of a team.
Totally. Tim, we answered your question. We've got Sophie, you got 2 thumbs up there. For Mina, stimulus diversity. Thank you, Sophie. We've got another question. Is a solid long-term product vision necessary for product and design teams to work on features in the short term?
I actually think, India, this is a balance, and it almost comes back to, Liam, what you were just saying then, of what makes different people tick. Some people will need that big vision state and really inspired by that, and then can piece together that near term, where some people really just want to focus on that near term. So what I think the balance is, and particularly for leaders and managers, is to be able to bridge between the two and tell that story both qualitatively, quantitatively, from a vision, but why now? Why you? Why us? It's a lot of orchestration, isn't it? But I think you will find people that, of course, that long term is really important for business success and product success, but you'll find people that aren't particularly motivated necessarily by that, and it might be something more near term. And that vision state might actually be a bit too ambiguous in a way. And actually focusing on the near term is really powerful. So the way that you might step that vision down of this is where we want to be in X years, but actually just by the end of this year, if we could get to this, imagine that. And so this is the steps we're going to take, and this is why we're stepping towards that.
Fantastic. I might just give it 1 more minute to see if any more questions pop through. India, I'm assuming Sophie answered your question there. We've actually got quite a few people, really insightful. Perfect. We've got so many people joining us from India, actually. I think there are about 5 people that have joined us from India. Most people from Australia. We've got 1 person from London. So awesome, Sophie. We've got people from all over the world coming to listen. Okay, look, I think
some can have coffee and donuts.
Well, yeah, exactly. But look, I think we'll leave it there. Thank you everybody for joining, and Sophie, again, thank you so much for taking the time out and sharing some real stories as well. You know, the fact that you're sharing from personal experience and the insights that you've taken from that and the things that you would do differently. It's awesome. I'm very sure that a lot of people are going to go back to the office and implement a lot of the things that you've shared. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Liam, for having me.
No worries at all. And just for everyone listening, I mentioned at the beginning, we've got our the next couple of months, we have our events locked in. So on the 30th of June, we have Sandra Davey, who's an agile product coach and non-executive director from Organa. And she's going to be talking about evangelizing the product mindset, how to think like a product person in 30 minutes. And I'm pretty sure that her talk is going to be focusing on how you can get everybody internally to think from a product perspective and to talk like a product person. So very topical. Please join us on the 30th of June. Join me and Sandra on that talk, and we look forward to seeing you all there. So again, Sophie, thank you so much. Thank you everybody for joining. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we look forward to seeing you here at Product Tank next time. Take care, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Bye.